One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads. I'm feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free.
They're back.
Episode of Dominant Effect. I'm Marcy Bishop. We got Mike Ball, and got a pretty good story for you this evening, and may have a little pop-in guest here in a little bit. But what we're going to talk about today is something that has been in the news for the past few days that everybody's kind of been checking out, trying to get information about and whatnot. And we actually have a freelance reporter that's over in Mexico right now that we're going to try to get on here to kind of shed a little light on what all's going on. So we're going to continue with the show, and then when she comes in, we'll patch her in, and then we'll be able to ask her some questions and let her be able to tell us what all is actually going on over there. So so for about 20 years now, the government has kind of celebrated these cartel kingpin takedowns. Every time a major leader falls, the headlines say victory. But history tells a different story, because when a cartel king falls, violence doesn't disappear. It actually increases, fragments. And that fragmentation is often more dangerous than the centralized control that it had from the beginning. So now we have reports circulating that El Mencho was unalived in a joint military operation from the Mexican government, along with some help from the U.S. And if that's true, uh, we could be entering one of the most unstable phases yet. Because when a cartel leader with global reach may have just been taken out, and within hours, the cartel erupted. Mexico erupted. You had roadblocks, you had vehicles burning, you had Americans told to shelter in place and stay indoors. Um, so that's the uncomfortable question that we're going to be asking. If these organizations can destabilize regions so quickly, should the U.S. stop treating them like criminals and start treating them more like terrorists? So this is what we're going to jump into today. So so like I said, as of uh, um Sunday, I think that was Sunday when this took place. Uh, the Mexican military um, located and unalived uh, El Micho um, during a security operation. The U.S. provided intelligence support and helped locate, find this guy. Um, he led the CANG, one of Mexico's most powerful and violent cartels, and is heavily involved in trafficking fentanyl, meth, and cocaine across the border over to the U.S. So after the operation, you had these cartel gunmen from multiple states in Mexico responded with hundreds of road blockades, burning vehicles, and arson attacks on different businesses. You had airports that are shut down uh, for airspace. You know, I mean, they didn't want anything happening on there, and then they made Americans basically shelter in place in these parts because they didn't want any kind of retaliation to happen to them because they were blaming the U.S. for for being a part of this.
Shit, it wasn't just Americans, by the way. Like, hey, don't move. Same thing with their own people too. I mean, it was rough there for a couple days, and that's standard operation for cartels. The way that they respond with brute force for a couple days, 2 3 days, and then kind of dissipates. Because you got to remember they've got a lot to lose too, and so it's not just like, oh yeah, now we're gonna guerrilla warfare this for as long as possible. It's no, they make their shit known, and then they're kind of dipping out.
Right. So the reports indicated that that this had took place, and then later on, at first they were saying that it wasn't confirmed, and then here recently it said that it was absolutely confirmed that it was him. And then shortly after that is where all uh, these different attacks started going on with the burning down the buildings and all this stuff. Now it was reported that no Americans was harmed during this time, even uh, even though they had everybody kind of shelter in place. I
Right.
had seen a podcast this morning where there was a female there. She was in Guadalajara, and she had the shelter in place. And her father, which I don't know who her dad was, but he sent a he sent armed guards there from the U.S. Sent them there to get his daughter and bring her back.
Nice little escort
Yeah,
mission to
she
go
ended up,
save.
right. She ended up making it back to. She was from Dallas, Texas. She ended up making it back this morning, but yeah, I don't know who her father was and what connections he had, but he made sure he got his baby up out of there.
Hell, if you got money, man, you can pretty much do what you want, and connections, of course.
Right, right. Now with the uh, CJNG, that's the that's the cartel that he was a part of.
The
It
new generation, yeah.
right. It emerged back around 2010. Um, So unlike these other cartels, this particular cartel built their power very quickly through like aggressive um, territorial expansions, public displays of force, rapid militarization, and it had several diversified um revenue streams because they were doing fentanyl, they were doing coke, they were doing weapons. You know, what I mean, the list went on as to how they were able to supply this
And you
particular
got to
cartel.
think about how he got into being the leader. It all started, it stemmed from him getting deported out of the United States. He got deported. He was here illegally, got deported, went down back to, he didn't originally go to Guadalajara. He went to Jalisco originally. And then he kind of built some stuff there and organized and, in his region now. But yeah, I totally thought that was interesting. And by the way, I have a breakdown video if you want me to play it later, just letting you know that I've got it, of a breakdown of the raid itself.
Go ahead if you have it. If you have
Yeah,
it, pull it up.
I got it. Okay, so here it is. So I skipped on purpose the whole main part of the story. I'm just showing the raid. But the main story is the CIA was following his girlfriend and followed those movements of her and then gave that intel to the Mexican government or the military rather. So anyways, hold on. We actually got our guest in here, so I can go ahead and bring this down and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So
You want to bring it up in a minute?
absolutely, I figured that it's only right for her to speak on this.
Well, thank you for joining us. We know that you've been very busy. You got interviews after interviews, so I greatly appreciate you being on here tonight. But just for the record, just tell everybody who you are and kind of let them know what all's really going on over there.
All right. Thank you for having me on. My name is Andalusia K. Soloff. So on socials, Andalalucha or Andalucha. And I am a freelance multimedia journalist, filmmaker, and graphic novel author. I'm originally from New York City and have been living and working in Mexico for the past 15 years. I largely report on security issues on the so-called drug war, the also on disappearances and gender violence and migration. And on top of that, I am a long distance biker, which also lets me get to know a lot of the country. And probably throughout the interview, we will hear how this related to what I was doing on Sunday and was affected by what was going on. And yes, over the past few days, well, I work a lot as a correspondent for TRT from Turkey, with Al Jazeera and BBC and Deutsche Welle. And ironically, I think this is actually my first interview with anyone in the United States. I've been doing like
Wow.
all over the world.
That's awesome.
So I guess that's what we got for you right now.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So you were on the bike when all this took place?
Yes. Not sure if that was the interview that you saw, how you found me. That was on I was on the take of Al Jazeera talking about this because I mentioned I'm a long distance biker. I live in the state of Morelos, which is right outside of Mexico City, like an hour south of the city. It's a beautiful mountainous state. And I was riding my bike through the mountains on Sunday, totally disconnected. Those of us who report on a lot of violence and trauma, we need a disconnect. We need our space, mental space to breathe. And so for me, that's what the bike is. And I was riding with a friend. And then finally we came to this town that has lots lots of culinary treats. It's called Yeka Pixla. It's known for cecina, but I'm vegetarian, so I can't enjoy what the best thing is, supposedly that there's, which is like some kind of cured beef. But anyways, point is, we're just chilling, eating lunch after this long bike ride. And also there was a windstorm, so it was like this chaotic day. And I'm waiting online for the bathroom, and I'm like, I guess I'll just check my phone for a second, and I get the alert that El Mencho has been killed. And I was like, what? I mean, that is just crazy news because supposedly the government was after him for 16 years. And the fact that not was he only detained, he was killed. And I was like, wow, what is going to happen now? That's going to be total chaos. And then I started looking on the news, but checked Facebook. And the first video that I saw was of friends of mine that are cyclists in the state of Jalisco, which is where he was killed. And it was like, a group in their bicycle, lycra on a Sunday, all riding together. And all of a sudden they come to a burning bus and then a burning car. And then they're trying to go further. And then it's a burning truck. And so that's just their reality, that it's a Sunday morning, you're going out and training, relaxing, and all of a sudden just confronted with this violence that just came out of nowhere. You don't even know why it's happening. And then I was like, I got to get home. Both because I'm a reporter and outlets were already talking to me, and they were like, can you go out live right now? And I was like, looked at my clothes. I was like, I don't think you want me in like a pink and yellow jersey as your formal correspondent. Y'all probably would have accepted me like that. But, the official TV outlets were like, no, I don't think you could go on TV like that. Do you have a tripod? I was like, I didn't bring my tripod on my bike. Sorry. I do sometimes. But anyway, so then I jumped on I rode to the nearest bus station, jumped on the bus to be able to get home faster, and then started getting home and reading and seeing how not only was it in Jalisco that there were these narco blockades, but it was in between 50 to 20 states, depending on who you ask, that there were over 259 road blockades. There were OXXO convenience stores were attacked, government banks were attacked, and there was just like chaos all over the country, which really showed the firepower and force that the Jalisco New Generation cartel has. And then later that night, I saw that the OXXO in the town that I had stopped at, where I'd gotten the news, had been also attacked by a firebomb. Fortunately, the town that I live in, which is a lot safer of a town generally, nothing happened, although there was a tense calm. School was definitely canceled where I live. It was canceled all across the state and at least 15 other states across Mexico, so that people would not have to go out, and especially since roads were still blocked, and to have any kind of safety precautions. And a lot of people didn't even go to work. There was just a really serious, tense calm. I will say today, a few days out from the killing of El Mencho, things are a little more normal where I am. That doesn't mean they're totally normal in Jalisco and places that were most affected.
Yeah,
So are
the
airports
official
and all that
number
open
was
back up
8.
now? I'm sorry, Mike.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was asking, so are the airports and stuff back open now? Because they had it had everything shut down there for a while.
Yes, there were many flights that were canceled on the first day, and then of course, when flights are canceled, everything gets backed up. And there was disinformation that got out about the airport in Guadalajara being attacked by the cartel, which did not actually happen, but there was widespread panic and people running and
Right.
like sharing videos where it seemed like they were being attacked, but if you watch videos, there's like you don't see any gunmen. And then
You don't hear any gunshots, right?
yeah, it's just, it was just a panic. And then also there were artificial intelligence generated images of that there was a plane that was on fire. That was not true. And then also people saying like that the airport had totally been taken under control. It's true that the airports were closed for a bit, but and airports have been taken over before. That would not be unheard of. Just that
Right.
was not the case this Sunday.
Yeah, so the official number that they were reporting, by the way, was 18 states that were displaying violence, some sort of violence or car bombing, stuff like that. Yeah, totally an interesting ordeal. Now, I actually happen to have a clip of a play-by-play breakdown of the actual raid. So I was wondering if you are familiar with how how it actually happened.
Sure. Yes. It was in this luxurious cabin that was
Mm-hmm.
actually in this very beautiful zone of Jalisco Tepalpa, which
Yep,
is the
that's right.
forest, and that it's where Mexicans go on vacation because I think it's very unfortunate that so much of the U.S. news has been focused on the people from the U.S. and Canada who go on vacation, as if those tourist lives matter more than ordinary Mexican lives, and also more even Mexican tourists, because Tapalpa is a tourist area, and it's important to mention, which very few have talked about, but it is butterfly season, as in monarch butterfly season, and it's very common for people to travel every weekend of the first few months of the year to go visit the butterfly sanctuaries that are in Michoacan and travel between Jalisco and Michoacan. Some good friends were caught on the highway returning home from seeing the butterflies and were not able to make it home. So this just really affects like all kinds of people in their everyday lives. But back to Tevalpa. So it was at this luxurious cabin. It was like cabin number 39 or something, I think. And that's the attack started from 7:20 in the morning, and that supposedly there was a romantic partner who had come and visited him, and that is how they had tracked him down with the help of U.S. intelligence.
Right.
This is what they say. Always have to take some of it with a grain of salt. But there are always like really bizarre ways that supposedly they get these hot or like these head leaders, like at Chapo, it was like because they had ordered food, and then where they had ordered food, then they could get to him through an underground tunnel. And there was another narco leader in that was in Michoacan, and I think also it had to do something with some lover, that's how they tracked him down. And with the Chapo, it had something to do with his wife's nail salon where she went, and someone knew where he was. I mean, there's always just like these weird personal ways that they get to them, supposedly. And So the attack, but it was like heavy artillery, with helicopters and tanks and or armored vehicles of the army. And according to the Mexican government and the U.S. government, that everyone on the ground were Mexican troops, Mexican special forces, that there were not any U.S. troops involved, and that they were supposedly only involved with the intelligence aspect of the operation. And then also this involved that supposedly close to 30 members of the cartel were killed, and also 30 members of the Mexican security forces were killed, and that El Mencho tried to get away, and that many of his hitmen also tried to get away, but then they were apprehended, and that according to the Mexican government accounts, that he was then on the plane that was going to be taking him to Mexico City when him and two other of high ups in the cartel were killed or died from their injuries. But I think it's important to point out that it is believed that there was an order to kill. And why is there an order to kill? Some say that it could be from resentment, that the cartel has orchestrated many attacks on the army, even taking down army helicopters. In the past, there was an attack actually on the head of security of Mexico, Omar Garcia Harfuch. Their hitmen tried to kill him in Mexico City, which is usually not very common, but on a major road in like a luxurious area of Mexico City a few years back. And I think they did kill one of his bodyguards, but he was not hurt. But so there really was a lot of venom of the government towards him. But besides perhaps this, wanting to get back at him, it's believed, and I recommend that people check out the work of Yon Grillo, who's a wonderful journalist in Mexico who reports on drug trafficking and weapons trafficking. And he said that why would they kill him? because the government doesn't want him participating in a trial where he can talk about all the connections that he had with Mexican politicians, with Mexican security forces, and in all the states that the cartel operated that allowed them not only to operate, but to have so much power and go way beyond drug trafficking, go into illegal fuel theft, and also into mining and illegal natural resource extraction, into real estate schemes, into migrant trafficking, into money laundering, and just so many different criminal schemes. The cartel goes way beyond drug trafficking.
Right. And so, real quick, I'm going to show you right now what they're showing a breakdown of. Now, I follow a certain YouTube channel that has done all type of military movements, whether it was, Maduro, for instance, or how we did with Iran and that whole operation, Midnight Hammer or whatever they called it. I follow this channel for this reason. And so I'm going to show you what they're reporting right now.
Picturesque mountain resort town about 80
the actual raid itself, not all the intel leading up to it. I'm just showing the actual raid itself.
miles outside of Guadalajara. On Saturday,
Guadalajara.
February 1st, 2026, the girlfriend arrived at the compound. Mexican military commanders had eyes on the target, but they didn't rush in. They played the waiting game. They held their positions, watching silently until she safely departed the property later that day. Her departure confirmed what they needed to know. El Mencho and his heavily armed security detail were still inside. To pull this off, the military had to maintain absolute secrecy. In the early, pitch-black hours of Sunday, February 22nd, the trap was sprung. The moment they breached the perimeter, all hell broke loose. The CG&G didn't just have standard rifles. The compound was a fortress defended by armored vehicles and military-grade rocket launchers specifically designed to blast military helicopters out of the sky. When the Mexican Army Special Forces breached the perimeter, a fierce, sustained firefight erupted. The air was instantly thick with the deafening roar of 50-caliber machine guns and the shattering blasts of rocket-propelled grenades. 4 cartel members forming the inner security ring were killed instantly in the courtyard. 3 Mexican Special Forces soldiers were severely wounded as they pushed through the barrage. As his defenses collapsed, the 59-year-old kingpin attempted to retreat. But where was he during the raid? Tactical reports place El Mencho in the west wing of the safe house, a fortified section of the compound likely intended to shield him or provide access to an escape route while his guards held off the assault. But the military's push was too fast and too overwhelming. Amidst the chaotic crossfire, Mexican Special Forces laid down heavy suppressing fire using their standard issue FX-05 5.56 6mm assault rifles. High-velocity rounds tore through the reinforced doors and drywall of the west corridor. Caught in the fatal funnel of the hallway, the kingpin was hit. Struck multiple times in the torso by the 5.56 6mm rounds, El Mencho collapsed onto the floor of the west wing. Critically wounded and bleeding heavily, his remaining security detail was neutralized. We also made a deep dive into the sea, air, and land components of the nuclear triad.
All right,
subscribe
so
for more videos to not miss a beat.
That's it. Just wanted to show the actual raid itself, what they're reporting on their reports and all that stuff. And I specifically watch them because I have been following them for actually a year plus now for all the different military movements and big operation raids and stuff. And it's always been what I have found in time as well, because I follow up on these kind of things, of course, that it was accurately reported.
Yeah, that has a lot of details I had not heard before. I wonder where they all come from, but we'll give the benefit of the doubt that
Sure.
that is how. I mean, I think largely that it's as time goes on, as then we know.
Granted,
some
I
of the
haven't.
things, right? Yeah.
Granted,
right.
I'm
No,
not
I
saying
mean,
that
I'm
this
not
is
saying it's not
100%
true.
fact.
Yeah, right.
I'm not saying it's 100% fact. So
Right.
I'm just saying what they're reporting.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's like surreal to think colleagues of mine, there are many brave journalists that are colleagues of mine that are out in Jalisco reporting. And a friend just sent me a video they did today. And they let them all have like full access inside, where they are. And it was like, oh, this is what he was eating. He eats lots of fruits and vegetables because he has a kidney problem. And here's his kidney medicine. And here the beds are unmade because the raid was so early. And, so they show all this like after the facts. And then of course, like, oh, and there's a shrine to the Virgen de Guadalupe and, other, and here's a letter from whoever. But I mean, I do wonder if I think what was interesting in that video is like how they make it seem as like that he was almost at like an Airbnb, like they were just like, hey, let's rent this place.
So
then,
no, by the way,
Yeah.
in that whole thing,
Yeah.
I only gave you guys like what 3-4 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
That was like a 20-minute video, and they
Oh, okay.
explained that whole thing, that this was their shit, this is their compound, like, and this is a big ass cabin that's
Right.
in there, that's beautiful, that's all set up and decked out, and yeah, it's their shit.
Right. No, I mean, that's why I was like, it seems really weird that they could just rent an like, it doesn't make sense that they would just go and rent literally an Airbnb because
that's
obviously, right. So I don't think that was like one of the things that was circulating. I think perhaps there are other houses in that region, that are very similar that are on Airbnb.
What I'm going to do
Yeah.
is when we get off the show, I'll send you that
That
video.
link. Oh, yeah. Right.
And it explains the whole thing and how it's actually tied to them.
Right. I mean, that is what would make the most sense
Yes,
because
it's a safe house.
Right. If you
actually.
have been on the run for 16 years, you are good at being on the run. And that man was real good at it. So
he became an ace. I mean, that's why he never, in the rare times that he would leave out in public, he was heavily,
protected. Yeah. Right. He was a very never, a very non-public figure.
Totally.
Yeah, when you was talking earlier, you said that he was supposed to go to court to talk about some of this other stuff that he was involved in, that he was able to do. So do you think that this was more along the lines of they wasn't after him based on what he was doing, they was after him based on what he could possibly tell?
No, I think they were. I mean, I think we cannot look at this raid without looking at it in the context of Mexico-US relationships, the upcoming World Cup in Mexico, in the state of Jalisco, in Guadalajara, on the road where many of these attacks took place, where cars and buses were being burned that lead up to where the stadium is. And also, without taking into context, of course, the attack on Venezuela and abduction of Nicolas Maduro and all that firepower that was used in Venezuela. So Claudia Sheinbaum has wanted to focus and maintain that Mexico is a sovereign nation. Mexico does not allow the U.S. to send their troops in. And so I think this was her way of saying, fine, U.S., we will use your intelligence. We will go after the man you want, but we don't want you on the ground doing it, So this was kind of like the compromise, if we can believe that there were not U.S. troops involved, which I don't say is 100% believable, but we will give them the benefit of the doubt on that. And Mexico did want to go after him. The U.S. did declare him FTO, a foreign terrorist organization. I just don't think that necessarily this would have been the moment that what Mexico would have done it if the U.S. was not putting on so much pressure. And then there's always the threat, and Donald Trump's favorite threat around the world, of course, there are tariffs. And given the very close economic relationship that the U.S. and Mexico have, tariffs are devastating to Mexico. So that is why the Sheinbaum administration will do whatever is necessary so that those tariffs are not imposed. But so just to be clear, the government did want to go after him, but I don't think the government wanted to listen to what he had to say, implicating so many members of the government and their complicity and complete collaboration in the activities of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel.
So do you see any further retaliation coming from the cartel? Other than what went on a couple of days ago, which seems to be just a lot of burning of vehicles and stuff like that, but do you see, based on, prior knowledge and, prior things that have happened to these other cartels, do you see that it's going to be some kind of retaliation even after this little couple of days and went by?
Fortunately, things have calmed down since Sunday. But I don't think that means it's over. I don't think it's just like, oh, okay, he was killed. That was a successful operation, and now we will just go on. One thing is, if nothing changes at all, then the same amount of violence that the Jalisco New Generation Cartel inflicts on the population would just continue, which is an enormous amount of violence. There are in Mexico over 130,000 disappeared people. What does disappeared mean? It means that their loved ones don't know if they're alive or dead. They just all of a sudden vanished from this earth, and they don't know if they're in a clandestine grave, if they were trafficked, if they're working as a cartel member, or what has happened to them. And actually, just last year, outside Guadalajara, not too far away in Teuchitlan, there was what they believe was like a forced recruitment center of young men who had been offered jobs, like normal security jobs. And then it turned out it was working for the cartel, and that many of them were killed. And then their remains were found at this ranch in the middle of nowhere, and their families got a tip, and they started exploring it and finding letters and clothes and like just all of this horror and devastation that was left by the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. So their activities like that will surely continue. And these kinds of clandestine graves were also found close to where the World Cup is going to be held, and where millions of people will be coming to watch the games that are being held in Mexico. But beyond that, that's just saying that nothing changes. Then the sheer violence that they inflict in Jalisco and in 20 states across the country will continue. But I do think there will be an escalation of violence, because what we have seen over the past 50 years, ever since the war on drugs was declared from the United States, and the war on drugs, because it's often a war on people, not actually on drugs, the drugs continue to flow. But in this so-called war on drugs, there is this strategy that's called the kingpin strategy, where you take out the leader. But then, of course, there is a fight for who will take power, and that often causes factions to divide and enter into more violence. And we have seen that repeatedly. So where I am in the state of Morelos, this is when the war on drugs was declared in 2006 with the administration of Felipe Calderon. And this is where there was the first big hit on a kingpin, which was Arturo Beltran Leva, who was killed in a shootout for 2 hours in 2009 in Morelos, very close to where I live. And that was, I didn't live here at the time, but friends who did tell me how then there was really a lot more violence following his murder. And then that was impacted in the state of Morelos and the state of Guerrero, which is one of Mexico's most dangerous states. And there was a splintering of the cartel into Los Guerreros Unidos, Los Ardillos, Los Rojos, and all of those groups are what involved in heroin trafficking, involved in fentanyl trafficking, and also the groups that were involved in the disappearance of 43 students from the Ayotzinapa school, who 12 years later, their parents are still looking for them and they don't know where they are. I wrote a book about this and have written extensively about these students. The book is in Spanish called Vivos se les llevaron, or in English, Taken Alive. And it's a graphic novel about the disappearance and how this affects their families who are searching for them, and then bringing it more up to date, as this is an example of almost 2 decades ago. Recently, we have seen in Sinaloa, with the other strongest cartel in Mexico, which is the Sinaloa cartel, that there was a full splintering when Mayo Zambada was taken to the United States. And it was a again traded by the other members of the Sinaloa cartel, and betrayed. That was the word I was looking for. I couldn't think of it in English. And so that there was a splintering of the cartel, and with a year and a half later, Sinaloa has just seen unprecedented levels of shootouts, of violence, of road blockades, of disappearances, and that all came after the arrest of Mayo Zambado, who is now in the U.S. and who was a leader of the Sinaloa cartel.
No. Now, I was going to ask you about that kingpin strategy because, historically it was supposed to be set up to eliminate the cartels, but it never did that. It actually kind of just reshaped them. Now, being the fact that El Mencho is now unalive, do you think that it would be a reshaping based on his territories where these other cartels are coming in? Or, I know that a lot of these cartels are well organized, they're well structured as to a successor or whatever, but would there actually kind of be a power struggle there for a minute?
I personally think, and I would like to say I'm not a full expert on cartels. I am, I do report a lot on security issues, but as far as cartel infrastructure, I'm not the best expert. But I do think that the Jalisco cartel has so much power that it will be hard in the states that they dominate for other cartels to take over. I don't think necessarily that will happen, but many are saying that there is not a clear successor to him, that there were I haven't found the names. I'm not sure if it has come out or not, or been confirmed who were the other members of the cartel that were killed alongside with him that were, other head honchos. I did hear that one of them was like El Sapo, like a frog is the name, but no, I can't remember his name exactly. But that they were one that was actually involved in this real estate timeshare scam that was just busted last week involving U.S. Retirees that were buying like false timeshares, and it was a multi-million-dollar scam. I heard that he was one of the people killed, but that it was not confirmed. But it's we will just see perhaps there could be a division within the same cartel, and there would be fighting within the same Jalisco cartel, and that there could be then factions, because El Mencho actually comes from a different cartel, which was the Milenio cartel, which then in 2010 divided, and that is where then the Jalisco New Generation cartel, it was the same with the Zetas, like many other cartels come from divisions of other cartels, and then often there is more violence when they are vying for power. So we will just see what happens. I am at least positive that it is positive to see that today Mexico was somewhat returning to normalcy, but I think it is a constant tense calm, and you can't call it normal when people are still scared that at any point in your life, you could be driving down the road, you could be riding on a bus, you could be riding your bicycle, and all of a sudden there's burning truck in front of you, and there's masked men who just set it on fire, and you don't know what could happen to you. So like any sense of security that people have has largely vanished, because that could all change within a matter of seconds.
Mm-hmm. So, here recently, the Trump administration listed all the cartels as being designated as terrorists. And we also know that the president of Mexico strongly resists any kind of foreign military intervention dealing with the cartels or anything like that. Do you think that if, let's say, for instance, that the actual violence does increase, or let's say that a couple of Americans or whatever end up getting hurt in Mexico, do you think that it would be something that the administration here would actually come into play, even though the president doesn't want that to go on?
I don't think so as of now. I think that the U.S. can settle for just being behind the scenes and I think often I mention, there's so much obsession with watching TV series like Narcos, and that my personal criticism of Narcos is that it really glorifies the life of narcos and makes it seem just like everything's like really fun and perfect and glamorous being a narco, which makes more people want to be involved in that world. And it really, I think, does not show enough about the victims of those violence. But the other side of the Narcos shows is that it shows a lot about the U.S. intelligence. That we see the death of Camarena, who was working for the DEA in the U.S. in Mexico, and was killed, and that did happen. And the DEA and the CIA have been working in Mexico for over 50 years and will continue to work in Mexico. So I think as far as if the Mexican government continues to carry out these kinds of operations with the help of US intelligence, I do see it unlikely right now that there would be a US attack. There were also recently there was a U.S. warplane that did arrive in a city outside Mexico City in Toluca, and people were really concerned, saying, "What is this happening? And why are the troops arriving?" And then the government clarified that it was because they were coming to train special forces. So I think it's a matter of that. The Scheinbaum government is doing everything possible to keep US boots off the ground, but yes, allowing the US to be involved in many other ways.
Mm-hmm. Now, I had heard back a while ago that a lot of people in Mexico actually don't mind the cartel being there because they're able to, where a lot of people not had jobs due to economic situations and stuff like that they were able to work for the cartel to make money so a lot of people really didn't care whether the cartel was there or not. Is that
I mean,
true?
I think it's slightly more complicated than that. I mean, there are studies that have been done about like what percentage of people in Mexico related to drug trafficking, be it like in money laundering or in even like preparing food for them or in just working
Business.
distributing. I mean, it's like and the drug cartels work as they are multinational corporations with very involved structures of all. Also, I mean, even just they work also as paramilitary organizations, which means that who makes the technology that they have, who operates, who is making these AI images that show a plane on fire. Like there's all kinds of different work that you could do for the cartels. And so, yes, there is an illicit, underground, clandestine economy that operates very well in Mexico. That where some people could say that, okay, well, I'm just glad I have work. I think that is much more we've seen with El Chapo and with the Sinaloa cartel, because he is akin to what we saw with Pablo Escobar in Colombia, where he was like the people's man, or still is, I mean, he's still alive. Escobar is not, but like where he would give out, the Sinaloa cartel does events like on Three Kings Day, which is somewhat like more like Christmas in Mexico, where gifts are given out. Like the cartel will, convoke people in a small town and they will give out presents, or they will organize free concerts. And so those are all the things that win over the hearts and minds of the population. But I do say in general, especially with the Jalisco cartel, that there is not a lot of sympathy. That yes, there are many people that are in the rank and file working for them, but I'd say in general, they are very unpopular all across the country, because places that used to be like very chill, or at least not have high levels of violence, like the beautiful state of Chiapas, which is in southern Mexico on the border with Guatemala, has become a nightmare in many towns, and hundreds of people have been displaced because of the presence of Jalisco New Generation cartel. So I don't think it's that people don't care that they exist. while recognizing at the same time, of course, there are always going to be people that want to be members of the cartel. They want the gangster life. They want the money, the girls, and and the luxurious cabin in the middle of nowhere.
I
It's a
was
sexy lifestyle, so I get it.
Right. And then of course it's further glorified that we
course.
see, with shows. And I mean, and then also there is a new genre of music in Mexico that's called corridos tumbados, which I say is like it's taking the traditional narco corridos and like adding swagger. It's like a street style. And that's what we see, which perhaps the only musician that people have heard of here is Peso Pluma, who is believed to be connected to the Jalisco cartel, and has like family connections and is from that area. And the many of the musicians, they do shout outs to cartel members. They do also do songs where they are paid to sing for them. And then the Mexican government has just had a total failed strategy about this music of banning it in many states. And that, of course, just banning a certain kind of music does not actually diminish the violence and often makes people want to listen even more to that music.
wow. Now I had seen a report today where they were talking about a lot of the weapons that the U.S. was supposed to have been sending over to Ukraine ended up in Mexico in the hands of cartel. And they were talking about how you had the U.S. that was going to Mexico training special forces, but you had other countries that was coming into Mexico that was actually training cartel members. Do you have you seen any? Have you heard about that?
I didn't hear what you're mentioning about Ukraine. I did not hear about that, but I do know that recently, I think it was in Missouri, there was a weapons manufacturer that was making 50 caliber bullets, and that there's no use, no one needs to buy those in the US. And so largely all of the purchases were to traffic them to Mexico. And it is believed that 70 to 90% of the weapons that the cartels use in Mexico were illegally trafficked from the US. And so here is when there is this false rhetoric where the US says they want to attack Mexico, they want to crack down on the cartels, but the Mexican government actually sued weapons manufacturers in the US. They sued Smith and Wesson, and they sued a few other manufacturers in Arizona. And one of the lawsuits the US completely threw out and said that it had no basis for legal intervention. I'm pretty sure the other lawsuit is going on still. But I actually covered a delegation of victims, of families of the victims of school shootings and other public massacres in the United States, the Denver theater shooting, Sandy Hook, and also Uvalde. And these families came to Mexico and they met with the family members of the disappeared in Mexico as this like shared violence affected by the same bullets, just in different contexts in different countries, and also even met with Mexican politicians who were advocating for these lawsuits, and for the US to take more action on not allowing all of these weapons to be trafficked to Mexico. And I think many people don't know this, but guns are illegal in Mexico. You cannot own a weapon in Mexico. The only people who can own weapons is the army and police, only security forces. And so any regular citizen cannot own a weapon. So these cartel members are not just going to a store and buying weapons and then shooting at people. They are all coming from the United States.
Oh wow,
100,000%. I mean, we're the biggest manufacturer in the world, and you guys are our neighbors. So of course, the cartel's got money too. I mean, do you know that El Mencho, he was in charge of $20 billion. I mean, that's a humongous operation that's being reported. $20 billion.
Correct.
That's I mean, they have a lot to lose as well in all grand scheme of things. That's a lot of money, a lot of resources.
Yes, I mean that's what I say, that they're a multinational corporation that operate all of these complicated activities. And
Yes.
another thing, just returning to what we were talking about, the kingpin strategy. So the kingpin strategy doesn't work because it's just you take out El Mencho, and what infrastructure are you taking out? That just killing him does not take out the infrastructure. It takes out a brilliant criminal mind because seeing everything that the cartel did is criminal brilliance. It's not to be commended in any way because it's just sheer violence that ruins the lives of millions of people. But obviously, he's a criminal mastermind. But then, what? Where's the money go? There's incredible money laundering happening. I'm sure both of you and many of your viewers at some point were fans of The Wire, where it was always like follow the money. And that doesn't happen here. There are not following the money. They're not seeing all of the legal financial institutions and US banks and Mexican banks and companies that launder the money. I was listening to an interview with a Mexican academic the other day who was just talking about how where have countries been successful in cracking down on criminal organizations, even like in Italy, and I think a few other places in Europe and in Colombia. It's because they track the money, that you can't just take out these kingpins and think that the country will get safer.
Hmm. Yeah, I was just thinking about all that in general. You kind of think like if you remove the leaders, then you produce fragmentation. If you how can I put it, that 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 designation kind of escalates without actually removing the demand itself. So then you come to the economic part of it, because a lot of these cartels thrive because you got the U.S. demand that remains high. You have the financial laundering pipeline. You have the weapons trafficking. And you have the corruption um, within the infrastructure itself. So even if you remove one leader, the system still persists. You turn around
That
and you
is correct. Yeah.
label it as terrorism. The market still exists. So the the truth is that no matter whether you get rid of one person here and there, it's still gonna function. It's still gonna continue to cycle like it's been doing. You know what I mean? So it's like unless you're able to capitalize on the corruption reduction, the financial disruptions, and the overall institution straightening of it, then you're just going to continue to have the same thing. You're just going to be plucking one person at a time, but you're still never going to actually come to an actual resolution.
That's true. And also the judicial system in Mexico. So when they want to go after anytime there's a violent crime that is committed in Mexico, there are never enough forensics to investigate it. There are never enough judges. There are never enough public attorneys. So the money just goes into like the facade of the militarization. I mean, on Sunday, as I was on my way home, I did see numerous army vehicles patrolling, and it was one of the first times that I saw that they were actually on alert, because the country is militarized, and I see the army almost every single day of my life go by in their patrols. But usually you see like a few of them and they're looking at their cell phone and everything's chill. This was like there was 10 of them and they were all looking out and actually on alert. And but the army just patrolling does not make Mexico safer. And then in some states, the army is also, involved in cartel operations. And what would make Mexico safer is if, when they're investigating the disappearances of people, if they actually have better databases, which often they lose all the information, or when families go and they go to local police and say, my family member is gone missing. Often the police say, okay, well, we'll wait 72 hours and then we'll look for them because they might show up in 72 hours. And then the family's like, okay, I guess I can't do anything for 72 hours. Those 72 hours are the most important hours in which they could still find the person alive. And they don't do that. So there's like such an enormous hole of where there could be more work done within the same judicial system and not just have this like over militarization, and that would actually have real investigations which could break down criminal infrastructure.
Wow.
Yeah.
You and how long have you been in Mexico doing this?
15 years.
Oh wow. Yeah, you man, that's a lot to know. That's a lot to know. It's tremendous lot to know.
Well, thank you for having me on the
Oh
show.
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. Matter
Honestly,
of fact, we're
like,
getting
thank
ready
you for
to
your time.
we're
Yeah,
getting ready
everyone
to
could follow me on La Lucha, both on Instagram. I used to do Twitter, but that's like not doing that well these days. I do still have Twitter and occasionally share things, so you can follow me on Twitter. I'm just not that active
Listen,
there.
since
Yeah.
it became X, I haven't even used X, so
Right.
it's all
I
good.
I got a lot of followers there, but I just don't, it's like, people just don't interact. It's just, and it actually this week I was really sad because that was the first thing that I would do. I would go to Twitter and see what's happening. And this time it was like, all right, I'll go to Facebook, I'll go to Instagram, I'll go to WhatsApp groups, I'll go to TikTok. But I was like, I just want to look on Twitter. But I was like trying to look on Twitter and it was showing me things that had nothing to do with it. But anyway, so yeah, y'all can follow me. Thanks for listening. And hopefully soon my book will also come out in English, which is about the disappearances of the 43 students. In Spanish, it is available. It's called Vivos Se los llevaron buscando los 43 de Ayotzinapa.
well, you have to let us know when I come out in English because you know we're not gonna be.
Right now, yeah.
But I do greatly appreciate you coming. Like I said, this was very last minute, and I'm very gracious that you were able to come, and actually being the first podcast to actually be able to talk to you in the States is a huge honor. So I appreciate that greatly.
Yes, it is. That's facts. So
All
thank you
right.
for your time.
Thanks so much for having me on. Have a good night.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll see you later.
Bye.
All right. So, AB, that was phenomenal.
That
Great
was
guest and
good.
great conversation. And let me go ahead and leave that link that I showed, by the way, in the middle of that, when I showed off that step by step. I left it in the back chat for her, but she's already left. But I'll leave it for you guys as well, and let me put it for AB as well. Hold on, let me put it on his side too. So if you guys want to know the source that I used right there, you can check out what that was and verify what I was showing you. So I'm always gonna link and show whatever. I mean, I'm all about transparency and just whatever the actual facts are. And if facts show different later, I'll report that. You know what I mean? That's just exactly what I do.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think this was a great show. Like I said, it was very last minute. And we was able to get her.
It was very well. It was actually
maybe like 5-10 minutes before the show started.
It was 10 minutes. Well, yeah. It was right there, and then waiting for her to get on and getting our intro right. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, because I had another person that I had reached out to this morning that was also in Mexico, and they were able to make it back.
So how you making contacts with these international women?
People that was contacting me that was letting
that's
me
cool.
know.
That's cool. So, and what's cool is doing what we do on here. We have this insane kind of power that we don't even really think about in the aspect of like community and people that care and want truth to come out or whatever the case is. And so they'll be like, hey, look, I've got a connection to this. I can make this happen. And people make shit happen behind the scenes. You guys in the chat are fucking amazing. There's a lot of people that really set not only AB and myself up, but myself on my show. I mean, it's just the way this works. And it's amazing how that happens. My direct message list on my social medias is insane. You know what I mean? Humbly speaking, I'm just saying it's like, wow, there is so many people that are like, look, I've got this source and I've got this that want to help. It's truly an honor.
Oh yeah,
doing what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, I get text messages and emails and stuff all the time with people giving information or sending videos and stuff like that. It's yeah, it's very much appreciated. A lot of the stuff I try to use.
People make videos for you. They start making music for you, and I mean, there's just so many graphics.
Yeah, it's a lot that. Yeah, it's a lot.
There's so many layers to this shit that people don't understand. It's not just the guy on the camera, you know.
Absolutely.
It's all of you guys that make this shit happen. So thank you guys for being here, and make sure you guys hit that like button, by the way, and double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side on both sides. Listen, if you're on my side of the equation, make sure you guys go over to the Archbishop on his side, subscribe, hit that like button as well over there. This is what we do, man. How long have we been doing this together, AB?
A little over 2 years now.
Wow. Okay. I couldn't remember if we were just coming up on 2 or if we were past 2.
Yeah. We actually passed 2 December 27th.
Wow.
Made 2 years.
Wow.
So
we started that shit fucking 2 days after Christmas?
Yeah.
Dude, we're savages. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah, so it's been pumping ever since. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that comes involved with this. I mean, a lot of people think that you just jump on here and you just get
hell no. There's so many layers.
You got to find the story. You got to research the story. You got to find all the information out because you want to make sure what's true, what's false, what's AI driven, what's
totally.
You know, and be able.
You have to decipher bullshit, which is 99% of information is bullshit. You know, so you have to decipher what the 1% of the actual facts of what's happening here. It's really difficult, you know. So, but we do a good job doing this shit. I mean, historically, look back on all of our timelines of when we're speaking, timestamps, and all that shit. It'll show that what we were talking about at that very moment, it rang true.
Absolutely. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about, we've talked about, you know, months ahead of time. And when it did come up, we sitting there like, yes,
dude, we were the first people. We were the very first people. I can tell you. I mean, aside from, I don't even think that independent journalists were on our level of the Restrict Act, Petrodollar Restrict Act. We were, I think, the very first people talking about it. You know, and it shows the timestamps of that shit, which is so cool about doing what we do because you can fact check that shit. You know what I mean? It's awesome.
Absolutely.
It's awesome doing what we do. So,
yeah. So we're going to thank everybody once again for coming out. And this particular video, just like all the other ones, it needs to get out. People need to see and hear what was being said. Like I said, we got a reporter that's sitting right there that told us everything that was going on. So, you know, that wasn't anything that was made up. That wasn't something the third person told. It was actually right there, and it needs to.
That's right.
It needs to get out. It needs to be told. So hit that like button. Also share it with your friends. You know what I mean? Go on there, hit that share button on there, and send it to all your friends and tell them go on there and check it out. You know what I mean? Because this is actual news. This is the stuff that people need to know. You know what I mean? And this lady here, she's out risking her life to get information that, you know.
This is not American, the United States.
Even though she's good at Spanish, but she's an American, but she was still out there getting what needed to be done. So, like I said, I greatly appreciate her for coming on the show tonight.
Totally.
Those of you that are not on the group chat on Facebook, go on Diamond Effect podcast on Facebook, jump on there. Also, hit the little QR code on there or go to diamondeffectpodcast.com. And there's a lot of stuff on there as well. A lot of the older shows, a lot of merchandise, stuff like that. Just go on and check it out. And like I said, next week we'll have another show for you. And until then, I'll see you in 7 days. Go ahead, Mike.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all for being here. Make sure you guys stick around. We're going to be rating our buddy Dr. Harley. He's still live right now. At least it shows on my side. Maybe, I don't know, but send them, let them know that we're coming through with the Mike Ball raid and Diamond Effect raid. Thank you guys very much for hanging out with us this evening. We'll see you guys here in 7 days. God bless everyone, and we'll see you guys very soon. Much love, honor, respect, everybody.